Okay, this is a description, actually an expansion of a description, of a photograph titled Home of a Rebel Sharpshooter by Alexander Gardner. I will first read the student's formal description and then expand on it. The screen is blank, so we can test how well the description evokes a mental picture. Here is the student's description. This photograph shows a soldier, in parentheses, sharpshooter, lying dead on the ground of a war zone. He is alone with only his rifle by his side. His body is surrounded by rocks that I'm guessing he used to not be seen by the enemy. His body is lying horizontally between two rocks, and his body is facing upward. The image is in black and white. The medium is albumin, silver print. Might be some issues with that. Okay. Then there are dimensions, and the student mentions that the image is horizontal. Okay. So to make a good description, a good place to start is that the image is horizontal, meaning it's wider side to side than it is up and down. Now, what did the student miss? The idea behind this video is to evoke a response so everyone can help the student see. Okay. The soldier's lying on the ground facing upward. The soldier's facing out a little bit, right? Kind of looking that way. And facing with a head to the right. And we can say that the soldier is centered in the picture, but in the lower quarter of the picture. So you're getting shape and location of that shape. Okay, how do we know this is a war zone? I think you only know because of the title of the picture. A single rifle and a person dressed in, well, it's black and white, so we don't know if it's gray or color. We don't see any medals or anything on the soldier. Nothing to indicate that it's a soldier. This could be a hunter. Alone with only his rifle by his side. Okay, here you go. Here's a good thing to point out. You could say that the rifle is propped up against the rocks. Looks like a built up stone wall. The rifle is propped up with the muzzle facing up and to the right. The body is surrounded by rocks. Okay, you can describe the rocks. Here's where we get into what photographers are looking for. Look at the direction of the cracks in these rocks, and look how the rocks seem to go back in space all towards this wall. Okay, it's a perspective trick, but everything leads our eyes to this rock wall. Again, this constructed rock wall. Let's see if I can paint him in. These rocks have a texture to them. Okay, actually, let me back up. I was coloring this in so you can see in simpler shapes. Okay. These rocks have a texture to them. Okay, versus the sky. The sky up here is almost completely white, although it's not a pure white. Whereas the rocks are varying shades of gray. Okay, this white sky is very, very smooth texturally. Okay, you really can't see texture in it. Whereas the rocks have a certain kind of texture. If you make an attempt at describing the texture, you've gone a long ways towards expanding the description. Here's a nice little detail. See this reflective puddle? It's a little puddle of water in the foreground, just a little left of center, small puddle, meaning that either it had rained or it just had been wet and muddy around. Speaking of mud, you can describe the shape that this ground makes. Okay, so you have all these kind of triangles and oblongs. Oblongs are just really rectangles that are not on right angles. Like here, this, I'll draw an oblong for you. You would say that's a crudely drawn rectangle, but since there aren't any right angles, it's an oblong. So in describing a picture, in a formal description, it is just a description of the forms that make up the work of art that you see. Describe the forms that you see. Do not describe any meaning or story. That is a later step. Only describe what can be seen as simply as possible. If the description is good, it should evoke a mental picture in the reader's mind. Okay, so the student basically had a beginning of a description. It could be expanded with simple terms. Shape of an object, location of an object, the direction the object is facing, the size of the object relative to other things in that picture, color, texture, tone. Now tone is darkness or lightness. In this case, that's all we have is tone, right? We just have black and white. We don't have perception of color. Okay, good start, but the description could definitely be expanded beyond what I started doing.